Hello again. This is the second part of the previous video concerning the major periods in the history of English literature. So, the Romantic period, which lasted from 1785 to 1830. The Romantic period was a time of great change in England and Europe, and it had a profound impact on the arts, including literature. The Romantic movement was a reaction against the Enlightenment and emphasized reason and science, and instead celebrated emotion, imagination, and individualism. In terms of literature, the Romantic period saw the emergence of new forms, such as the lyric, poem, and the romantic novel, and the revival of other forms, such as the epic and the ballad. Some of the most notable writers of this period include William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and Lord Byron. Their works reflect a deep appreciation of nature as well as a fascination with the supernatural, the mysterious, and the tragic. The Romantic were also concerned with personal and social freedom, and they sought to promote the rights of individuals and the oppressed. Overall, the Romantic period was characterized by a sense of excitement, energy, and imagination, and it had a lasting impact on English literature and the wider culture. The Victorian literature, or we can say the Victorian literature period from 1837 to 1901. The Victorian literature refers to literature produced during the reign of Queen Victoria in England, which lasted from 1837 to 1901. This period was a time of great change as the Industrial Revolution brought about a rapid advancement in technology and commerce, and Britain emerged as a dominant global power. In terms of literature, the Victorian era was a time of great diversity and experimentation, and it saw the emergence of new forms, such as the realistic novel and the serialized penny dreadful. Some of the most notable writers of the Victorian era include Charles Dickens, Emily Bronte, Jane Austen, the Bronte sisters, and Thomas Hardy. Their works reflect the changing attitude of the time, as well as the cultural, social, and political issues of the day, such as poverty, class conflict, gender roles, and imperialism. Victorian literature also often dealt with themes of morality and religion, as well as personal and social relationships. Overall, Victorian literature is characterized by a sense of realism, a commitment to social reform, and a fascination with the past, and it remains some of the most popular and enduring literature in the English language. Modernism, the, the Modernism period, from 1914 to 1945. Modernism was a literary movement that took place between 1914 and 1945. and it was a response to the profound social, cultural, and political changes of the early 20th century. Modernism was characterized by a rejection of traditional forms and conventions, and it sought to challenge conventional thinking and traditional values. In terms of literature, modernism was marked by a focus on the inner life of the individual and a rejection of the linear, objective narrative style that was typical of the 19th century. Modernist writers often used fragmented and most linear structures, and they experimented with stream of consciousness, free association, and other innovative narrative techniques. Some of the most notable modernist writers include James Joyce, T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, and D.H. Lawrence. Modernism also reflected the impact of the First World War, which had a profound and lasting impact on the world, and the cultural and political upheavals of the early 20th century, such as the Russian Revolution, the rise of fascism, and the Great Depression. Overall, modernism was a time of great creativity and experimentation, and it remains a major influence in English literature and the wider culture. The postmodernism period from 1945 till now. This period is marked, or this, I mean, modernism is a literary and cultural movement that emerged in the mid 20th century and continues to the present day. It is characterized by a rejection of traditional narrative forms, a questioning of objective reality, and a focus on language and representation. In terms of literature, postmodernism is marked by a rejection of great narrative and absolute truths, and it often employs techniques such as self-referentiality, irony, parody, and contextuality. Modernist writers often challenge conventional notions of genre and structure, and they often incorporate elements from popular culture such as comic books, advertisement, and mass media. Some of the most notable postmodernist writers include Samuel Beckett, George Louis Borch, Thomas uh, Bacon, Don DeLeo, and some of them. Postmodernism reflects the impact of the technological and cultural changes of the late 20th century and early 21st centuries, including the rise of the internet and social media, globalization, and the increasing interconnection of the world. Overall, postmodernism is characterized by a sense of complexity, ambiguity, and fluidity, and it continues to have a major impact on English literature and the wider culture.